one of the nutrients that fell short in the carnivore diet was...
Yeah, we both looked at each other and went, what? People are going to shoot me down. But they cause more problems overall than animal proteins. Do you think I could find any paper that said we need to survive? There was a study done that actually debunked the blue zone theory.
Oh, okay.
Because what they found was...
That's clever. I actually think that is genius.
Yeah.
Nick.
Steve.
Guess what we're talking about today?
Oh, something that's going to upset some people.
We're going to upset millions today.
Probably we are, yeah.
But we're going to say that we're going to talk about the mysterious carnivore diet.
Yes.
Meaning all animal products. Screw your vegetables and nuts and seeds and legumes and beans. And we're going carnivore today.
Yeah. Is it good? Is it bad? Whoa, we don't know.
Let's find out. Let's get into it.
Yeah. Steve-o, how are you?
I'm good. I'm a little bit nervous today.
Me too.
Are you a little bit nervous?
I'm a lot nervous, actually, yes.
I've done 400 and something of these things for years.
Yeah.
And this is one that I'm a little bit, I don't know, like a bit of anticipation.
Yeah.
I'm
Slight
sort of
anxiety, maybe just a touch of anxiety.
I was saying just before this, how is this going to flow? How is this going to... how are we going to talk about all this information? But what are we talking about today, Nick?
Well, so we're talking about the carnivore diet today, Steve.
There's 17,000 emails have just been sent to ATP.
No.
How dare you talk about this controversial topic? But what's all this in front of you? You've got this...
Well, this is the thing, right? So yes, we're going to annoy... We're probably going to upset some people. No matter what we say, no matter what we do, we'll upset somebody.
Yep.
So let's just premise it by saying we're not for or against the carnivore diet. We just thought we'd do one on the carnivore diet because it's trending, it's quite popular, and look at the positives and the negatives and, look into it a lot more. So try and find the science and anecdotal evidence and all the things so we can get a bit of a balanced sort of view. And we were both very surprised.
Oh, yeah. Well, because we're research-based.
Yeah.
And, 5 years ago when we did a podcast on this at ATP Science, on the link below, the number, I can't remember what it was.
Yeah.
It's like I know. That was about 5 years ago. And so, there wasn't as much data out there. And all these studies I've got in front of me, in front of you, about 2 or 3 years old.
Yes.
And some are very recent, and some of it's very controversial. Some of it shows it's good. Some of it shows it's not so good.
Yeah.
Some of it shows some things that we learnt, and it's just absolutely remarkable. And we don't even know how we're going to sort of go through this, but we're going to go through it one at a time.
Yeah.
So we'll go through the data sort of one at a time and see what it is. But let's explain what the carnivore diet is.
Yeah.
It sounds easy, and it kind of is.
It kind of is, really. It's not much to it.
Yeah.
Animal proteins, basically.
Basically, that's it.
That's it.
So there is a line...
animal-based,
Animal-based.
Yeah.
So that includes the cheese, dairy, and meats, of course, eggs, fish, chicken, all that. Now, there is a lion diet, which is just red meat.
Oh, I heard of that one this morning, the lion diet.
The lion diet?
Yeah, it's just red meat.
I told you about it. I wasn't lying about it.
My God.
No. Lion diet is like the Jordan Peterson and his daughter are on those ones. And
they're on the lion diet. That's interesting.
Yeah. She has loin steak 3 times a day or something. But here's the funny thing, and this is where I'm a scientist. My first degree was chemistry and physics. And so I'm all about the science and that sort of thing. But I struggle. Like, they just eat that sort of thing, and their health is, been doing it for years, and their health is remarkably improved. Jordan Peterson was a physical and mental mess. He had terrible health conditions, and now he just eats meat and salt, and that's it, and doesn't cheat ever.
Yeah.
And again, this is according to him. I can't say, no, you're wrong. I've got no evidence.
Yeah.
And his health has improved dramatically. His mental health, his physical health. So what, as a scientist, am I supposed to say, poo-poo that?
Yeah.
That's evidence.
He's wrong.
Yeah. And then you get people who are vegans and they thrive.
Exactly.
And you go, are they wrong?
That's right.
So it's like, very...
This is kind of where it becomes really difficult. And people are really passionate about their diet.
Yeah.
Really passionate. And if it's working for them... or there's an ethical reason or for whatever reason, they're very passionate about it, so they can't see past their own experience to look at the broader picture and look at the science and look at other people's experiences to maybe have a bit more of a sort of a more balanced sort of view of it.
Yeah.
And neither of us are carnivore, let's just say that. We don't have a bias. Neither of us are plant-based. Neither of us are we're omnivores, so we have a bit of both.
Weird omnivores.
Weird omnivores, yeah.
Yeah, and it does well for me. But then, like, for example, I eat those beautiful mixed nuts that I love. And if you ate the same nuts that I ate, you'd get sick.
Yeah.
I don't. Yeah. I feel fine.
Yeah.
So there is a saying, and probably say it a few times, this thing, but that one man's food is another man's poison, or a woman's poison, and that was 600 BC from Hippocrates. So it could all come down to that.
Yeah.
Because I see people online like Carnivore, such Joe blog, and Miss Meat. Have you seen her?
No, I haven't seen
I should have sent you a link to Miss Meat. She eats like meat and like a stick of butter.
Oh, wow.
Oh, like an ice cream.
Oh.
Yeah. I know. And she's extraordinarily healthy according to her.
Yeah.
Again, according to her. I don't know. And so, there are people saying, oh, that's anecdotal evidence. But you can't discount anecdotal evidence.
You can't, no.
Like if somebody feels better, you can't say, no, you don't.
That's right. The science says that you shouldn't feel better. So you shouldn't feel that you're lying. I mean, that's where... so definitely science. We're all about the science, but you have to consider anecdotal evidence. You have to, because otherwise, then you're too far the other way. So you're saying no, you're too biased. You've got to look at the science. Well, then if you're only looking at the science, then you're too biased. You know what I mean? Like
Absolutely.
There's got to be balance across the board.
And with food studies, a lot of food studies are what they call association studies, which is. An association doesn't mean causation. So, for example, we fell for a trap many years ago about consuming cholesterol. We thought, well, if you consume cholesterol goes up. Cholesterol is associated with heart disease, and therefore cholesterol's bad. That's an association. So that's sort of that's the premise of all this stuff. And I guess we just go through this data that we've got, because we've got loads of studies on all this stuff too.
Yeah, I guess. I guess we don't even know really where to start. But I guess we will talk about whether you can get your essential nutrients through the carnivore diet. We will talk about that.
That's a good question. Do you want to start there?
Well, we can start there, because I guess that's
get my paper out on that.
The argument for a lot of people is, well, you're missing out on so many nutrients. You are missing out on one macronutrient.
Yes.
But your micronutrients, your trace minerals, things like that, that's different again. So we'll start there, and then we've got a really big, interesting, controversial macronutrient that
I'm going to ask you a question. What were you doing New Year's Eve? And it's a loaded question, because New Year's Eve is when this study came out last year, December 31st.
So there you go. I'm not going to tell you what I was doing New Year's Eve, because I sound like a nerd.
Oh, I was camping.
I was in bed by 9:30.
Oh, were you?
Yeah, but I get up at 4, so...
I would have been in bed before then, I think. But yeah, what they did, this is a published a study, published in Nutrients, and it said assessing the nutrient composition of a carnivore diet, a case study model. So what they did was they looked at all this and they said, okay, what micronutrients and all this sort of stuff are you, what are you missing and all this sort of stuff? And it came out quite remarkable. Now, no shocks here. Fibre was very low, because there's no fibre on a carnivore diet.
And we're going to talk about fibre, and hold on to your hats, because that's going to be really controversial.
And they had a couple other minerals here. The diet fell short in things like vitamin C, which makes sense, unless you're eating off.
Which we're going to talk about.
So
hold
many
on
things.
to your hat for that too.
But one of the nutrients that fell short in the carnivore diet was iron.
Yeah, we both looked at each other and went, what?
That's because in this one, what they did was they had carnivores that were not eating meat.
Oh, right.
Now,
okay.
most carnivores, most eat red meat, which covers loads of nutrients, of course, in red meat. But it fell short in things like iron, and I thought, oh my God, that would be overdone. But on different studies, one of them had low iron, and someone who ate differently had massive iron.
Well, that's it, yeah.
And so it comes down to what you eat under the carnivore thing. If you ate offal, that's got loads of vitamin C and folate and all this stuff in it, but this diet, because it didn't have offal, fell short in that.
Yeah.
And again, is that shortness, is that a problem? Because, for example, vitamin C, if you're not having glucose, you need less vitamin C, because they compete for absorption.
Yes, we talk about that too.
Ruger can make his own vitamin C.
Yeah, he's clever though.
Yeah, we can't.
No, we can't.
We're not clever enough.
No, Ruger's my dog.
Yes, Ruger's dog.
Animals can.
Animals can. Even Flatface used to be able to make vitamin C. He can't anymore because he passed away, but he used to make vitamin C from glucose. So when there's nutrients come here, I want to... The one that was significantly low was the fibre.
Yes.
Now, you did a bit of research on this.
Well, we're going to talk about fibre separately because that's really controversial. Because when I did a bit of a down the rabbit hole, which you do when you're doing these sort of things, the things I came out with were very interesting.
Fascinating.
So fascinating.
It's rabbit hole shit, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I live my life down rabbit holes. Get out.
I know what you were talking about yesterday. That was a rabbit hole thing.
Yeah, that's right.
Now, I've got one more study here that's semi-related to this, where they said, okay, let's look at this carnivore thing from a scientific point of view. And what they did is published in the Current Developments of Nutrition. They looked at 2,029 people on a carnivore diet. Mm-hmm. Average time they're on the carnivore diet was 14 months.
Okay.
And they said, okay, what's it like? What's going on? And they measured stuff like BMIs, glycosylated hemoglobin, and diabetics and all that, because a lot of them go on it for different reasons. Most people go on carnivore diets because they've got some problems.
Yes, that's right. Which we'll talk about again.
I know, quite incredible. So what they found, they found that lipids, and I'll start with LDL because we'll get onto this. LDL levels went up to 172 milligrams per decilitre, which is about 4, which is considered high. Yeah. Under 100 is considered what the Heart Foundations recommend.
Yeah.
And that's about 3.2 in the Australian scales, but under 100. But yet there's studies showing that up to 190 is better for longevity. So it's like...
Yes, and we did a podcast.
We did a podcast on cholesterol.
So
if you're about to throw something at the radio that you're listening to us on, or your phone or whatever, we did a cholesterol podcast and we talked about this in depth. So I've got the study here because someone's going to go, oh, bull whacker. Yeah. But it's true. Up to 189 is better for longevity. And that was published in the British Medical Journal for those who are wondering. But the other effects they found was that of the people that went on this for diabetes, guess what percentage their diabetes medication reduced? 10, 20%?
I know the answer, so I'm going to say 100%, Steve.
100%. Across the worst performer was someone that got off 84% of their medications. That's the worst. The best was 100.
100, yeah.
So isn't that remarkable? So very much turned their diabetes around. Now, again, a lot of diabetics, like I've got one in my family, doesn't eat well.
Yeah.
So is this like, you cut out the crap, you're going to get better?
Yeah.
Is it that or is it something more?
And that's the thing. Like most...
Yeah.
I'm going to say most, but that could be generalising. It could be less than most. It could be a few, but a large percentage of the people that go on carnivore diets do it because they're having a health condition and they've read, it's going to help my health condition. So they're already possibly having a bad diet. So if they're going to be taking out a lot of these processed foods or high sugar foods, things like that, then of course they're going to have really good results on the carnivore diet, but may not necessarily be the carnivore diet itself. It's just that they've suddenly taken out all their processed foods and highly refined foods and things like that to get the good results. So we have to take that also into account.
Yes, we do.
That could possibly be a driver.
Well, what else they found was, and I'll read the conclusions just here. Contrary to common expectations, because they all expected this to turn pear-shaped. Yeah. Yeah. Adults consuming a carnivore diet experienced few adverse effects and instead reported health benefits and high satisfaction. Cardiovascular disease risk factors were variably affected, as we said before, with the LDL, but the other things improved. The generability of these findings and the long-term effects of this dietary pattern require further study. So that's what you say with every study. But they went through all the different, like there are some different things, and this graph here, I'll put up the camera for those who are watching. This one here is when they said, okay, let's for example, a lot of people had a chronic disease. It was about 1,900 or something. And 69% of those people had vast improvements in their chronic disease. The best figure here is overall health. 95% said they were much healthier on this diet. Wow. And that was over 2,000 people. Okay, so also food cravings. Everyone gets food cravings. Yeah. 91% of these 2,000 something gone. Mental clarity, 85% improvement. Memory, 66% memory improved. Focus, 83%. So strength, endurance and energy all increased by around 80%.
Wow. Amazing, isn't it?
So again, and these people are mostly on it for 14 months. Now, what happens after 14 years? Don't know. Well, this is 14 months.
We don't have data, really long-term data.
No, the only data we've got for that is when we look at populations like the Inuits and Eskimos that eat predominantly carnivore during winter. Yeah. for years. And they have weird sort of health things. They have less cancers, more cancers, and all sorts of things. They have more nasopharyngeal cancers, but that's because they sit in huts with smoke billowing. So,
exactly.
But they have less prostate, breast, and bowel cancer and all that sort of stuff. So, this is an interesting paper because they looked at all different variables. Now, the LDL, as I said, at the end of it was 176, which, if depends who you ask, it's really high. But the triglycerides went down dramatically in this.
And that's one thing you have to really look at. And I think that's always left out of the conversation when we're talking about lipids is the triglycerides, which are really dangerous if they go up. And what increases triglycerides? Carbohydrates.
Carbohydrates too, absolutely. Yeah. Also, they found dramatic decreases in their BMI, so they lost a lot of body fat and body weight, I should say. So the weight was incredibly much improved. So there's a few improvements here and a few things that went up and all sorts of things. And but really, hemoglobin A1C went down, inflammation went down. So things improved, and the liver enzymes were fine, the kidney fine. So I mean, it's like that's a peer-reviewed paper. 14 months on average. It's sort of like. Because we've listened to people say, well, there's no evidence on the diet, and I've got a few more papers come up. But isn't that interesting?
It is interesting.
What do you think about that when you interview people and they just feel better?
Well, that's the thing, So, I mean, I'm a clinician, so I see people in clinic. Then I have quite a few clients that are on the carnivore diet. So I can't deny the results that they get, and the majority of them go on for autoimmune conditions. Majority of them have had zero symptoms, so their autoimmune symptoms have gone, and they're feeling amazing. So I can't discount that as to be a factor.
Yeah.
So it comes back to, this is what it comes back to for me.
Okay.
It comes back to the gut microbiome.
Oh,
every time.
Yep.
Almost every time. I can't say every time, but almost every time it comes back to the gut microbiome, right? So what we feed our bugs is what we're going to get. If we've got a good balance of healthy, bacteria in our gut and a low level of inflammatory microbes, we're going to be quite healthy. We're probably not going to have a great deal of health issues. If we have a lot of, inflammatory microbes, then we're going to be more sick. So what you feed is kind of what you get. So, if you're feeding your bugs high refined carbohydrates and sugars and things, you're going to be producing things like Klebsiellas and that sort of things, which are very commonly associated with autoimmune conditions. That sort of thing, inflammation, lipopolysaccharide production, all of that sort of thing. So, so it comes back to the gut microbiome. So if you are, deciding to do the carnivore diet, and you're like, well, I'm really, really unwell, and I've got all these symptoms, and my digestion system is horrible. I started the carnivore diet, and I felt really good. Well, your microbiome is obviously not healthy, and so therefore you're taking out particularly the plant foods, which we will talk about. Yeah. People are going to shoot me down, and I am an advocate for plant foods. I eat them. I talk to people about them.
I gave you an apple today.
Yeah, I love my plant foods, but they cause more problems than animal proteins. It's because they have the toxins that are in the plants, and they're naturally in there to protect the plants, all that sort of thing. So they're generally what cause more problems than animal proteins. So if people are going to take them out of their diet, of course their symptoms are going to reduce.
Yes.
So, therefore you have to look at, where they're at before they go on these diets and what their microbiome is doing. Yeah. So, and we'll talk about different bacteria and what grow in more of a carnivore based diet, what you're growing in your gut compared to what you're growing in a more of an omnivore or a plant-based diet, and how that's impacting the results that you're getting from these diets.
Amazing. You're absolutely right. In another study we've got here, because we're going through studies, I'm trying to keep a play a straight bat start with, then we get to our opinions based on all these studies. There was a case report in Frontiers Nutrition just September last year. And what they did was they said there was 10 people that had terrible guts. And I mean, 6 had ulcerative colitis and 4 had, which are Crohn's disease. So 10, they said, okay, we're going to put you on a ketogenic slash, they call it carnivore diet, ketogenic diet, but it was a carnivore diet. Okay, what do you think happens? Well, really interesting. There was 10 cases, so they were unresponsive to medications. It was like last resort shit. We're putting you in this trial. We'll just see how it goes. It's just 10. put them on this diet. They basically had clinical improvements, and I'm quoting this from the results of this paper, and the paper's called Case Report, Carnivore Ketogenic Diet for the Treatment of Inflammatory Bowel Disease, a case series of 10 patients, as I said. They said clinical improvements were universal, with clinical improvement scores ranging between 72 and 165 points on their questionnaires. That's universal. That's everybody. Everybody. It's only 10.
Yeah.
Well, the 11th one could have killed them.
That's right.
But we're just saying 10.
Yeah.
Patients report their diets are pleasurable, sustainable, and unequivocally enhance their quality of life.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, how do you argue with that?
Yeah, that's right. Exactly.
No, you 10 are wrong too.
Yeah, you're wrong.
You
Science
2,000 are wrong. And this is published in the medical literature. And I've heard podcasts say, there's no data on this. It's like, I'm reading it.
Yeah.
I didn't type this up in Frontiers Nutrition. Thing. I didn't, Yeah.
But
what they found was that there was an inverse association between intestinal ketone levels and the inflammatory bowel disease activity. So the more ketones you got, which are products of fat burning, the less inflammatory bowel disease you got. And guess which ketone they measured? BHB.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Beta hydroxy butyrate.
Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah. So
what's butyrate, Nick? What are you talking? Well, why is that so important?
should we go into the fibre?
Go into the fibre. Let's
because that's
do
going to cause a lot of.
Yeah, because fiber's, it's essential for your health. You need it. Everyone needs it. You're going to die without it, right?
Yeah, right. Because but Steve. Because I went, okay, cool. So when we're looking at the carnivore diet, what are things that are missing? So essential nutrients and trace minerals, which we didn't go into, you can get You can get most of them in a carnivore diet. So you don't need the plants for that. But we need the fibre. So then I'm like, okay, well, I'll find the papers on the fibre.
Yep.
And I was searching, and I searched, and a week later I'm still searching.
Yeah.
And do you think I could find any paper that said we need fibre to survive? To live a healthy life, we need to have the fibre. I couldn't find it anywhere.
Wow.
And so that got me going down a whole other rabbit hole about fibre. And I go on about fibre. You need 30 to 40 grams of fibre a day.
Oh, yeah.
Diversity plant.
Okay.
40 different plants a week because they feed the beneficial bacteria that produce, our anti-inflammatory compounds, our short-chain fatty acids, all of that sort of thing. So, so then I tried to find, as I said, anything on fibre.
Okay.
I couldn't find anything. And so where did the fibre sort of theory come from that we need to have this fibre in our diet? Because
the Inuits, they don't eat it.
Well, that's right. There's a lot of in history, a lot of cultural people that don't have fibre in their diet because of the way they live and all that sort of thing. So
Maasai warriors.
Yeah,
they eat meat and very low fibre diet.
Yeah,
Eskimos.
They have a little bit of fibre. Yeah, Eskimos. Yeah. South Pacific, all of that sort of thing. They had very protein-rich diets, very low carbohydrate diets. Australian Aboriginals, as soon as they introduced carbohydrates, their rates of diabetes and heart disease and other things skyrocketed. Yeah. And there's reasons for that we can talk about.
So fibre, I think, is associated with healthier foods. Like that apple I gave you today is full of pectin, soluble fibre.
Yeah.
I don't think it'll kill you, but, it's sort of like there's a few things around fibre. Like first, does it lower cholesterol?
Yes, it can. Yeah. So, and I'm not sitting here saying, well, we don't need fibre because I couldn't find anything to say we did. That's not what I'm saying, because there is, now that we have fibre and we have done a lot of studies on it, yes, it can reduce cholesterol levels, it can help to balance blood sugar levels.
That's interesting, that one.
Yeah, that one is interesting. It feeds bacteria that create anti-inflammatory compounds, as I said, that keep our gut environment nice and healthy. So it does.
Butyrate.
Like butyrate. Yes, like butyrate. But you can actually still produce butyrate on a carnivore diet.
Of course you can. You can also consume butyrate.
You can.
What about butter?
Yeah, butter, exactly.
Butter is got loaded with butyrate. In fact, that's where it gets its name from.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
And these people, they were producing ketones, butyrate.
Yes.
And a type of butyrate, and that was reducing the inflammation.
Yep. So I'm just trying to look in my papers here because I did do some things on short-chain fatty acids. Short-chain fatty acid production. So, we talk about, whenever we talk about the gut, we talk about short-chain fatty acid production. So propionate, acetate, butyrate. They're the main short-chain fatty acids.
Yep.
And they produce compounds that then feed our. So they produce short-chain fatty acids, which then have the beneficial effect on our gut. So the butyrate helps the colonocytes of our gut and the anti-inflammatory, and they keep everything nice and healthy in our microbiome. And it's always been fibre, plant foods and probiotics and things like that that help to produce these short-chain fatty acids. But carnivore diets, you can actually produce them as well, particularly butyrate. So,
and acetone, which is a ketone, that is like acetic acid, which is a short-chain fatty acid,
that's right.
or vinegar.
Yeah,
if you had vinegar on something, I mean, it's remarkable, isn't it, that we're having a conversation about fibre now?
Yeah,
it's
exactly. So then I think, okay, so we're producing short-chain fatty acids via meat. So therefore, it isn't necessary to get through fibre.
Yeah.
But again, I'm not saying fibre is bad by any means. I'm just saying that it's maybe not as essential for our health and to live as we've been told.
Well, look, these ketogenic diets have no fibre, and that improves inflammatory bowel disease, as I just talked about, and for 2,000 people, it improved their overall health.
Yeah.
Now, I think fibre is associated with good health because it's associated with things like fruit and vegetables, which are good for you.
Yeah.
Some of them are, and some of them aren't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like nuts, that's full of soluble fibre. Yeah. It's a good source of fats and everything, but it's does every human need it? Not just some, it's like. It's really interesting.
Well, the thing is, can you strive without it?
Yeah.
And people on carnivore diet, some people, and again, as we said, there's no really long-term evidence because, it hasn't been studied for over a long period to see whether there will be health detriments to your health over the long term or not. But in the data we have now, people are thriving on a zero or extremely low fibre diet. Yeah. So now they could be having, in ketogenic, you can have avocados and things like that. You've got a lot of fibre in them, so you can get a bit of fibre there. But if you're on the lion diet, for instance, and you're just eating red meat, these people are thriving and they're still making butyrate. So therefore they're not needing these amounts of fibre and the plant fibres that we always talk about to thrive. So you have to look at that. You have to look at the reasons why. What is it? Where did it come from? Where did the fibre hypothesis come from? Yeah. You have to look into that a little bit.
I've got a little bit of an idea, and I think compared to, let's say, the standard Australian diet, it's just shit diet, like refined shit, just shit. You're better off eating more fibrous vegetables and fruits because you cut out on Fruit Loops and friggin', white bread and McDonald's.
A lot of people are eating very little fibre in those horrible diets, very, very little fibre. So,
And toxins like sugars.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was an American study, and they used to have a half pound of sugar a year. Now they have like 3 pounds a week. It's like,
what's that in kilos?
Oh, that's a kilo and a half. Ooh. Almost a kilo and a half of sugar a week. Australians have over a kilo a week of sugar.
That's crazy.
On average.
Yeah, right.
You and I don't. No. But Joe Sixpack down the road there with his, 600 ml of Coke that he's drinking, that's 20% sugar. Yeah. That's a lot.
But then you get people that say, but I don't eat sugars. But then they eat cereals, and then they eat crackers, and they eat pastas, and they eat, refined white rice and things like that. And well, that converts straight to sugar anyway, to glucose. So it's not a lot better. And I think that's the big problem, in these. They're saying, well, these diets are extreme, but people are getting better because someone maybe somebody had, let's take, for instance, someone like you, Steve-O, who maybe has had an autoimmune condition and they were producing a lot of Klebsiella in their gut. Yeah. And so they're feeding their Klebsiella with their starchy carbohydrates and they go, their autoimmune condition is getting worse and worse. And so they, you know what, I've heard the carnivore diet is great, I'm going to try it. Yep. So they cut out all their carbohydrates that are feeding the Klebsiellas. Therefore, Klebsiella goes dormant, doesn't die off altogether, it goes dormant. And suddenly their symptoms reduce markedly. They go, this carnivore diet is the miracle. It's what's actually fixing me. Is it the diet or is it the fact that they've actually stopped feeding the Klebsiella that's causing the problem in the first place?
Well, yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean? So they could go maybe onto a different diet where they're still eliminating their refined carbohydrates and their starchy carbohydrates and have the same result. Well,
I've got a bit of an update on this particular paper here. They also listed their prior diets. And just one of them, client number 2, he was on a paleo diet before he went on a now, paleo diets are pretty good. I
They're pretty healthy. They can be pretty healthy. They still
Yeah.
have quite a lot of carbohydrates in them.
Yep.
Yeah.
They can have like sweet potatoes and that. So he just went rightio. He went carnivore, and he was in remission on carnivore for 11 years.
Yeah.
Now he has this guy. He's 52 now. He has a lot of motivation to stay carnivore now because ulcerative colitis is horrendous.
Horrendous, yeah.
And so that's why they could stay. So that's 11 years. That's the longest. Most of them are those 4.5 years. But a lot of them were vegan. There was another paleo. There was a vegetarian. There was a sugar-free, gluten-free, Whole30. I've forgotten what that one's all about.
That's just all whole foods.
Yeah.
It's all just whole foods.
And so the previous diets sometimes weren't bad. So I mean, this is, and what they, you know what the summary of the paper said? Fibre elimination may be therapeutic through altering colonic microbiome metabolism and causing moderate degree shifts in bacterial populations. So that's what they found was beneficial for these guys with terrible guts.
Yeah. So so someone has, say, maybe a SIBO, or they have extreme bloating and constipation, and they reduce their fibre intake through some of their they take out some of their plant foods. And we talk about FODMAPs and things that people know about FODMAPs. Take the FODMAP foods out and I feel better, or my IBS reduces, things like that. They're not taking out meat, they're taking out their plant foods, their fibrous foods, they're actually feeding. So again, to me, it comes back to what you're growing. Yeah. So it's not the food that's the problem, it's the microbes that you're growing. So if you're growing a large amount of, as I said, these microbes that cause a lot of inflammation, methanogens, things like that, of course you're going to have all these symptoms. And if you take the foods out, you're not going to be feeding these microbes. They're going to become dormant, and therefore your symptoms are going to reduce. So everything to me comes back to the microbiome. So someone says, I thrive on this. It's cured my ulcerative colitis, things like that. I'm like, yeah, 100% probably. It probably has put it into remission. And this is the other key. Some people say, well, I can't, if I go back to eating a normal diet, my symptoms come straight back.
Right.
That's because they're now feeding these microbes again. So the microbes, some of them will die off, but they're the more, the natives.
Ones.
But most of them will go dormant, and they'll just sit there, and they can sit there for years until they get fed again, and then they'll come back up. So if you've been carnivore for 4 years and you think, okay, well, I'll try something, flare straight away. You go, well, see, that's it. It's a carnivore diet that's keeping me healthy. Yes, it is, because you haven't addressed that underlying overgrowth of this particular bacteria that's now causing the problem, or group of bacteria. It's usually more than one. And I think that's a lot of it that people are missing with all of this. It's not the food. It's not the food that causes the problem or fixes the problem. It's what you're taking away and what bacteria you're then eliminating or reducing that actually is improving your health. So I think people forget about that, and instead of saying, well, it's just a carnivore diet because it's protein and we're meant to have protein, that's all we're meant to have. Well, there's just so many arguments around that.
I know. Yeah. And with the fibre argument, people say, oh, no, when everyone increased the fibre in the studies, they get better. And it's like, from what? What was your baseline?
Yeah, that's
was
right.
it the shitty Australian diet? Then if you change your diet to pretty much anything in any book anywhere, you'll get better.
That's right. And I have clients that will increase their fibre and they get so much worse. And I have clients that increase their fibre and get better. I have clients who are extremely constipated and they then increase their fibre and they get better. And I have patients who take away all their fibre and their constipation goes. And therefore, it's coming back to the microbiome. It's coming back to those gut bacteria, those microbial bacteria. What is in there? That's why I love to do gut microbiome testing. I'm like, we'll just do microbiome testing to start with, because, if you think the only answer is a carnivore diet, say you've got autoimmune conditions and you're on I'll go carnivore. I don't love it. I don't enjoy it. It's quite hard to stick to, but I have to do it because otherwise my symptoms come back. Well, look at the gut microbiome and start trying to modulate that and reduce whatever is causing this, these symptoms in the first place, because you're not totally different to everyone else in the planet that has microbiome as well. It's just that everyone's microbiome is different. And as I said, the majority of people who have health conditions, a lot of it stems from the microbiome. So they're not addressing the underlying cause. Even Jordan Peterson, he's a huge advocate for the carnivore diet.
Lion diet, him.
Yeah, but if he had a lot of health issues previous to that, he hasn't addressed them, if he did, then he'd be able to come off the carnivore diet and not have the problem. So
Good point.
that's the way I see
Yeah.
it. But I guess back to the carnivore diet, you know, the argument is it unhealthy? Is it healthy? We were both surprised, and I came into this thinking, you know what, I don't go the carnivore diet. I have clients that are on it and are thriving on it, but I still don't think it's a good, healthy, long-term diet. You know, I don't think it's great for our health. But I came out the other end thinking, you know what, it's actually not as bad as I actually imagined it would be. As we said, you can get your essential nutrients, your trace minerals and things like that. So, you know, you can get all your B vitamins.
Yep. Oh, easy.
You can get your folates, as we said, so the eggs and things like that. You can get your vitamin D. You can get your K2, so that's found in liver, eggs, dairy. You get your zinc, seleniums, your phosphorus, your calcium. So in your dairy products, also the bones of the fish and things like that.
Yeah, sure.
Copper, magnesium, high in fish and things like that. You get creatine, taurine, carnosine, CoQ10. You can get all these things just from your meat. So, you know, a lot of these are your essential nutrients. So nutrient-wise, the vitamin C, and this is my argument, if you're going to be carnivore, most of your organ meats are so nutrient dense. So my dog is fed like a raw style diet.
Your dog's the most spoiled animal on the planet.
Yeah, it costs me a fortune, but he's very healthy. But see, he gets organ meats, so he gets muscle meats, and then he gets a little bit of organ meat because that's where a lot of these extra nutrients lie. So people are on the carnivore diet that aren't eating organ meats. So I guess more the lion diet where they're just eating the muscle meat. I question, are they getting everything they need in that? Because if they're not having organ meats, you know, as I said, organ meats are so nutritious, even for us. It's, you know,
eggs are too.
Eggs are.
So if you're on the lion diet, you're skipping eggs.
Yeah, eggs. You're skipping a little bit of your dairy for your calcium. You're skipping your fish, so you're not getting the fish is higher in magnesium than the animal muscle meats, so you're missing a little bit of that. So I guess within the carnivore diet, there's sort of levels there as well, isn't there? Yeah, you know, so you can go more extreme again, even in the carnivore diet.
Well, yeah, and you can go what a lot of people do, which is animal based, which is basically eating up, smashing up some avocado or something on the side.
Yeah.
But what I think we both concluded was that the refined grains and grains have to be refined. So
we should do a podcast purely on grains because I am against grains.
Yeah, I'm against.
You're
grains.
against grains.
Well, because it's like, you know, people will say, and you'll hear this, but whole grains are associated with blah, blah, better health or whatever. So compared to what?
Yeah.
Refined grains.
Yeah.
Now, I would love to, can I write a study here right now and put it? Large amount of people, put some on a carnivore diet and compare them with someone on I'll call it a whole food diet, a healthy diet full of grains, full of beans, dairy, you know, all the things that you'd think are good.
Yeah.
And I want to see the outcomes.
Yeah.
I want to see that because, but a lot of these people are coming off, you know, like the shitty Australian diet, and they're going to be better.
Yeah, exactly.
But I want to give a counterpoint to you. I'm going to put this to you. Have you remember the blue zones?
Yes, the blue zones.
Now, Nick, blue zones are places where people live a long time, lots of centenarians and all this sort of stuff. A lot of
studies done on the blue zones.
Now, you've got some information on the blue zones there because blue zones, apparently, this was used as basically a reason why you should be vegetarian or vegan or something like that.
Longevity. Yeah,
longevity.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell me about blue zones. They're groups of places around the world that have certain patterns to them. Yeah,
so they're the areas in the world where they've got the longest living people, the healthiest people. You know,
Okinawans, Greeks, the Greeks particularly.
Yeah,
the Greek
exactly.
islands.
So there was a study done that actually has debunked the blue zone theory.
Oh, okay.
Because what they found was, hang on, let me just go to it.
Dr.
It's really
Justin
funny.
Sol Newman was the big author, yeah.
Yeah. So what they found was that all these centenarians that are living, you know,
way over 100.
Way over 100, were actually dead.
Oh. So what do you mean by dead? Explain that.
Not alive.
Not alive, okay.
Not alive. Yeah, so what they found was there was a lot of, what do you call it, pension fraud going on.
Pension fraud, okay.
Family members were not listing them as dead and then collecting their pensions.
That's clever. I actually think that is genius.
Yeah, lack of birth certificates. A lot of them didn't have birth certificates. Yeah. And then the ones that died, they weren't being they weren't being registered that they were dead. So, of course, you know, they're like, well, they've been dead for 10 years, which would make them 110, 120, who knows, or 90 plus. No, they were actually already dead. So, so that's kind of debunked a lot of these centenarians that are living in these blue zones that are actually not even alive.
Yeah, some of them are living, when you say living is inverted commas, because they're living in the basement under somebody's bed, but they're collecting Johnny's pension. Yeah, because, you know, let's say you and I are married and I'm super old, which I am anyway, and I die and you're living off my pension, it would be in your financial interest to not report me dead.
Keep you quiet,
Just go,
just keep you on ice.
And it comes into our joint account. And I'm turning 100, I'm turning 150, you know, whatever, you know. And that's what he discovered. So the blue zones were, you know, and if you look at the countries, it's a little bit, you know, and so there was a lot of that going on, unfortunately.
There is a lot. And then if you look at the other argument in that, take away that they're actually just dead anyway, and they're pretending they're not, or their family members. The thing about, you know, people study these different diets all around the world and they go, okay, these are the healthiest living people in the world. Let's extract that diet, bring it to our, you know, where we live, our environment, our cultural sort of, you know, traditions, everything, and expect it to have the same result. And it's never going to anyway. So, you know, you know, say someone lives in Sardinia and, you know, they have their afternoon, you know,
siesta,
naps and things like that, and they live, you know, they have a lot of community and they have a lot of downtime, and whereas in our, you know, in our culture, social interactions are pretty low these days. We're working long hours, we don't see the sunlight, you know, so you can't then take that diet and expect it to work in the environment we live in. So there's so many arguments against all these, you know, well, this plant-based diet is the best, or this, you know, this carnivore diet is the best because in this country, you know, they, you know, like the Inuits. Well, it's a completely different way to live. You know, so you can't...
More active. They may not be exposed to as much smoking. The Greeks may stress a lot less.
Well, the stress. I mean, in our society, you know, we work long hours. You know, we just have a completely different lifestyle. So you have the stress factor, you have the lack of sleep, you have, you know, all of that sort of thing that's layered on top, and then you expect this diet to work because it worked for someone in this other country where they're living a long life.
It was like the old thing where the Chinese were healthy, and they were, and this is when they were more of a third world country. They're moving quite well economically at the moment, but they were working in rice fields and all that, and they were consuming a lot of rice, you know, compared to us, and it's like well, therefore, but they weren't consuming much wheat and all the other grains, and but also they were working physically, so they could burn off carbohydrates. It was nobody's business.
Well, that's it, and we can talk about your diet has to match your goal in life, like your goal, your physical goals. It has to match your physical goals.
So that is very interesting, and wins Nobel Prize. It's like
I know. I thought that was really
Jesus, it's gone a bit downhill. A Nobel Prize.
I know. I feel like anyone can go get a Nobel Prize now.
But you know, in 1905, when Albert Einstein discovered special relativity, it's an amazing mathematical physics thing. Didn't win a Nobel Prize for that. No, and now they're winning it for looking at dead people. Albert Einstein probably should have 7 Nobel Prizes, I reckon. Special general relativity, and he won it for light, photoelectric fire. Crazy.
Yeah. So we'll finish off on the. I just want to finish off on the plant stuff.
Yes, go.
Because you know, and I'm talking about plant. Plants as in not non-grains, so non-agricultural, crops, not that sort of thing. Because that's, like I said, we should do a podcast on that because the grains is a whole other topic. But I'm talking about, you know, your vegetables and your fruits and things like that. So they do contain a lot of toxins, right? And the reason they contain a lot of toxins is because, one, they have to survive out in the environment like animals do, so they have their own mechanisms. You know, some of the celluloses and things, they keep the structure of the plant. They're the things that we can't break down. They have to protect themselves against bugs and things, and also pesticides. So they've evolved to sort of be a little bit resistant to pesticides and things. So they produce toxins. So we then are eating these plants. So then we're having to deal with the toxins that they produce. So if we're having a lot of them, then of course there could well be some issues with that. And then you have things like your oxalates and your lectins and things like that, you know. And so if someone yes, spinach can be great, and spinach is very healthy, but if you eat a big bowl of steamed spinach, which is a lot of spinach, really high in oxalates, if you have a fungal overgrowth or something like that, then your oxalates are going to go through the roof.
Right.
So therefore, that bowl of spinach, which is supposed to be very healthy, it can actually be really toxic to your body. So when we're looking at plants, you have to take that into consideration.
Yeah, of course you do.
You know, so people say, oh, yeah, but it's all about the plants and the fibre and things. But yes, but because of the structure of the plant and what they produce, that's causing a lot of problems for people as well. So therefore, you know, are we overdoing it on our intake of plants? And, you know, you have to look at that. And then, as we said, the fibres, the different fibres. So, you know, if someone's really constipated and then they're going to be having like a, you know, like an insoluble fibre, or is that going to be making them worse, possibly? So you have to look at all these things.
It's remarkable. And let's put aside, we're putting aside the fact that a lot of these things are sprayed with pesticides, glyphosate.
Well, that's the other thing.
And you know, we don't, and also, you know, is the soil replete of nutrients?
Yeah.
You know, and all these other questions that we've got, and are we cooking the plants right?
Yeah.
Because they have to be cooked a special way, and otherwise they friggin' lose nutrients and all sorts of things.
Well, that's the other thing, you know, you say, well, you're getting all your trace minerals and your essential nutrients in a carnivore diet. In a omnivore diet or even a plant-based diet, are you? Because we're very depleted of selenium in Australian soils,
Very
and other
much
trace minerals we're very depleted in.
Yeah.
So are you even getting them in a plant-based diet or an omnivore kind of diet anyway? So
It's remarkable.
So, and then when you're looking at quality, if you're on the carnivore diet, you also have to look at quality there as well, because if you're eating commercially fed, you know, commercially raised meats, animals, should I say, and farm-raised fish and things like that, are you getting all the toxins there? Are you getting, you know, high toxic load from that? Are you getting the antibiotics? Because all animals are fed antibiotics to stop infection. Don't care what anyone says they are. So you're getting a high load of that. So you have to then still, if you're on a carnivore diet, you still have to think about the quality of the food you're eating. You'd have to be sticking to grass-fed, organic if possible, but grass-fed. Grass-fed's much higher in omega-3s as well. And then your fish, you'd have to be looking at wild-caught fish because the farm fish is extremely toxic. So there, and again, if you're on a carnivore diet, and look, I looked up, you know, adverse reactions and events and things with carnivore diet, and there's a lot. Yeah. A lot of people said it nearly killed me, you know, a lot
Absolutely. There was one in the paper that a literature or a case study with one guy, he was eating 6 to 9 pounds, so about 4 kilograms of cheese a day.
Wow.
And he got sick. His hands changed colour. Yeah, I know. But it's like, so carnivore can be bad if you do it wrong.
Yes.
Veganism can be bad if you do it wrong too.
Yeah, of course.
Like, if I just ate potato chips all day, they're cooked in soy oil, that's a vegan diet.
Yeah.
What's wrong with
right.
that?
Exactly.
It's vegan.
Yeah, that's right.
And you'd probably die. But so there's wrong ways to do things. And this was published in the case. This was a reason not to do carnivore. No. The same with eating twisties every day is not. Oh God, I love twisties.
I know you.
I used to eat loads of them.
Cheese ones you said.
Yeah. And you know, if I ate that every day, that's a vegan diet. But it's vegan diet done wrong.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. I'm just shuffling through my papers.
I know. There's so much to go through here.
There's so much to go through. Because then if we come back to the microbiome, and you know, some people say, okay, so, you know, I can't. The carnivore diet was horrible, and it did this, and it made me worse, and so again, it comes back to your microbiome, right? Because when someone's eating a higher load of animal proteins, you are going to be feeding a particular group of bacteria in your gut and producing their metabolites, more of their metabolites, right? So hydrogen sulfide is one of them that you will produce more of because
that's
they thrive.
Gas. That's the smelly gas that,
Yeah, so sulfur-containing amino acid. So the fermentation of sulfur-containing amino acids, so methionine and cysteine. So they create this hydrogen sulfide. Hydrogen sulfide in high amounts is highly inflammatory and can cause a lot of problems in the large intestine, even in the small intestine. So there's a hydrogen sulfide dominant SIBOs and things like that. So hydrogen sulfide, ammonia is another one you produce a lot of, and then branched-chain amino acids is another one that you can see very high. So I've done the microbiome testing of quite a few carnivores, people on carnivore diets, should I say. And for the most part, hydrogen sulfide is a little bit elevated.
Right.
Branched-chain amino acids are elevated a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Now, branched-chain amino acids we've talked about, some people will think, but they're really healthy. You take them before you go to the gym.
They're 3 essential amino acids.
Yeah, that's right. But if you're producing a lot of them in the gut, you can be more insulin resistant.
Valine causes insulin resistance.
Yeah, exactly. So some people that are on carnivore diet, they go, but I put on a lot of weight. And I'm like, well, you might be producing a lot of these branched-chain amino acids, plus we talk about insulin resistance in carnivore diet. So there's some of the things on carnivore diet that can happen, and I have seen these in high levels. And then I have seen other results from someone on a carnivore diet when these levels have been quite low.
Yeah.
So then we look at, and TMAO, trimethylamine oxidase.
Yep. That's a thing that's bad for your heart.
Yeah, so that's what's correlated with heart attacks and things like that. So, and I see that high a lot of the time as well. So, therefore, yes, in that instance, you may be more predisposed to cardiovascular issues or events. So the carnivore diet then is probably not overly healthy. But it all comes back to what you're producing in the gut, your genetics, environment, all of that sort of thing as to what's going to work for you. So, that could be some of the reasons why some people have adverse, reactions to the carnivore diet, because the microbiome is producing a lot of these metabolites that are highly inflammatory and can cause a lot of problems. So that's something to take into consideration as well. And then someone else may not produce high levels of hydrogen sulfide even though they're taking in a lot of meat.
Yeah, I mean, it's remarkable. You can get two different things.
Yeah.
And it's quite scary because it sounds like to me, and cutting a big long story short, is that one man's food's another man's poison. As I said, it's like this could really work for some people, and it clearly does. I've been through 2,000 odd people plus 10 people that have worked great on inflammatory bowel disease where they went clinical remission, all of them. That's pretty good. That's a good result. It's published in the literature, so there's no data on that. So this is pretty remarkable. There's one other paper where they looked at life expectancy and meat intake.
Yes.
And there's literally a correlation between the more meat you eat, the longer you live.
Yeah.
Now, again, that's a correlation study.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that meat causes you to live longer. It's not a causation.
That's right. Yeah.
But if meat shortened your life, it wouldn't come out this way.
Yeah.
So it doesn't shorten your life.
Yeah.
It may increase, but it doesn't shorten.
Yeah.
And so it's really interesting.
And then, are they looking exactly what they're eating? Are they eating highly processed meats? Are they eating, like bacon? Sorry, people love bacon. A lot of bacon, which is,
I love bacon.
a lot of sodium. And then, highly processed meats and small goods and things like that, which are really quite bad.
Yeah.
So, is that what's creating a lot of the problems for a lot of people as well? And they're saying, it's all bad. So it all comes down to the quality of the diet. No matter what diet you're on, it comes down to the quality. Like I said, same with carnivore. If you're eating grass-fed, organic, unprocessed, fresh meats, getting your fish in there. I do think that you should get fish in there.
Yes,
you're getting
I do
the omegas, you're getting the calcium from like your sardines and things like that, the bones, salmon bones, things like that. Really important. A little bit of dairy. Some people are having. I'm not a huge dairy advocate,
no, I'm not a
but
dairy.
there probably is. We could do another podcast on that.
Scary dairy.
Scary dairy 2 or something.
3.
We've
done 3.
Done 3.
It's remarkable because some people work on this diet and some people don't. And what I love about it is the stories I love seeing on it. It comes up in my Instagram feed because I'm researching it lately. It's sort of like, knows what I'm thinking. And people swear by it, and then there's people who get sick from it. And I think it's going to be a bit like that. But there's some other myths around it which I think we've got to debunk. And consuming cholesterol, for example, you can't eat eggs, they're high in cholesterol. Hopefully there's not too many of those people out there because we now know that we now know about negative feedback in the body and all this sort of stuff. And we know consuming cholesterol reduces Alzheimer's. And it doesn't change your cholesterol levels. There's idiots, I say idiots, I'll call them scientists. There's one guy that ate 30 eggs a day for a month.
30 eggs a day, you'd get sick of eggs, wouldn't you?
Yeah, so he ate 900 eggs and his cholesterol slightly went down.
Yeah, slightly went down.
Slightly went from 200 and something to 200 and something. It was like slightly went. It didn't change.
Yeah, it didn't go up.
Didn't go up.
No.
And so I mean that's that one guy. The next guy could go up by thousands. The next guy could go down. But it just shows you that you can go nuts with these diets.
Yeah.
And your body is very adaptable because we have to be. Humans are amazing. We live at the poles, North Pole, and there's obviously homes at the South Pole now. But in the old days there wasn't too many. But they also live in the Amazonian jungle where they eat predominantly a vegetarian diet and thrive.
That's right, yeah.
And so it's like we live all over the earth and thrive on whatever foods we eat there.
Yeah, and that's where I think the problem lies in that there is no one perfect diet. And
No.
so, this diet must be the best. So plant-based plant-based diet must be the best because look at all these studies that show that it is.
Yeah.
And then you can say, okay, so the carnivore diet, look at all the studies that show that actually is beneficial. You're getting all your essential nutrients for the most part. You know, you don't need the fibre to thrive in a lot of people. So that must be the best diet. So, but it comes down to exactly, you know, everybody's different genetically, you know, our microbiome, the quality of the food as well, as we said, is a really important factor. And then I guess you got to look at the end of the day, what are the things that cause most of the problems is the refined carbohydrates, the sugary foods, the processed, the junk foods, things like that. If you take them out, you're already winning. Yeah. You know, and for the you hardly ever see someone that's really overweight, diabetes, all that sort of thing that's on low carbohydrate or low refined carbohydrates, very low sugar diet. So these are just extremes of either way of those types of things. So
right, exactly. And we looked at studies in a podcast we recorded yesterday, and you can listen to that one on calories in, calories out, probably out by now. Maybe not, but it will be. And we took people that ate loads of protein, and it was just a scientific, and they didn't put on body fat.
No.
So protein increases your basal metabolic rate because of the thermic effect of food. We talked about that yesterday when we recorded it.
Yeah.
But so it's very difficult to overeat on protein, but it's very easy to overeat on carbohydrates.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And look, there is. We didn't go into there is a high prevalence of insulin resistance on the carnivore diet.
Yes, can be.
And can be.
But then there was studies that show they got rid of their diabetes medication.
Yeah, that's exactly right. But it's an evolutionary sort of mechanism as to why you would actually become insulin resistant.
It's not a bad one.
It's actually not a bad thing.
No.
And there's actually no issues with it unless and I have seen this too, people on a carnivore diet and then they try to have a little bit of something here and there that's maybe a carbohydrate or alcohol or something like that. The guy just have a beer or a drink or something. And if they have that often enough, they start to put on a lot of weight. Yeah. And even though they're on the carnivore diet, because they're insulin resistant because of this mechanism that the body's like, well, you need some insulin, you know, it's related to growing children and things like that. But it's no problem while you're on it. But if you start to introduce things, and that's where you see in these Indigenous populations, like in Australian Aboriginals and South Pacific, how they become quite obese, diabetes and heart disease and things like that, because they were primarily sort of very protein-based and fat-based diets, and then suddenly they're bringing in these carbohydrates and they're having all these problems because they probably were insulin resistant for a reason. The body does it for a reason. But as soon as you introduce the sugars, it just goes out, it just becomes really disastrous. They put on the weight and all that sort of thing. So there's that aspect as well with insulin resistance, but there's a reason for it.
Of course there is. And I found a paper where animal-based diets and cardiovascular disease development, that's named the paper, and it was in the Journal of Cardiovascular Development and Disease, and it was published 2023. And I was looking through it, and they reviewed what could happen if you went on a carnivore diet. It said increased toll-like receptors, increased LDL, increased lipotoxicity, TMAO, and all those things that you mentioned. And I was reading through it and I go, that's all good, but it wasn't actually tested on people, but it was theoretical. And I thought, that is a really interesting paper. That's what could happen.
Yeah.
Until I got to the end, I figured out why it was like this, because it was done by an agricultural mob.
Yeah, exactly.
And you know what? Doesn't dismay this.
Yeah.
But people say science can't be corrupted.
Science can be 100%
Oh my
be
God!
corrupted.
I mean, science has been corrupted in the food area for years, but also not just corrupt, but honest mistakes made.
Yeah.
Ansel Keys is probably the most famous guy.
Yeah.
Who said, nope, saturated fats will kill you, heart disease, 1957. And we've done podcasts on him, and it was absolutely corrupt.
Yeah.
And falsified, because he had a narrative, and
that's right.
Got away with it.
And that's the thing, you've got to know how to read the research papers, you've got to see who's funding them, that sort of thing. So, I mean, there was another podcast done a while ago. There was someone who's very heavy plant-based advocate and someone who's a carnivore advocate.
Yep.
And they were going at it a little bit, not going at it, very sedate, but the one that was very plant-based advocate was saying it's all about the science, and then the carnivore person was saying, but it's all about the anecdotal evidence. The carnivore person was a clinician.
Yep.
The plant-based was scientific. He didn't see people in clinic. He just read the science, right? Yeah. So he was saying, no, it's got to be, all about the science and the evidence. And the evidence shows that plant-based, you have all these health benefits, carnivore, it's not so much.
Did you read those papers?
But then he hasn't looked at the papers that are actually positive results for the carnivore. So you have to look. You can't just cherry pick and say, well, this is what I'm going to focus on because I'm plant-based, so I'm going to look at all the plant-based studies and show, see, it tells you that this is what it is. But then you have to look at the carnivore studies and go, okay, you have to have a balanced view. You can't say, it's all about the science, but then not look at all the science, and it's all about the anecdotal evidence. But you've also got to look at some of the science as well. So I'm a clinician, and I see anecdotal evidence for things that don't match the studies.
That's true.
So you have to get a balanced view of both, and you can't be all one or the other. And so, people say, yeah, but I'm plant-based and I'm so healthy, and these are all the studies, there's so many studies to show this, and we will no doubt get comments say, yeah, but check out this person, and they'll debunk it.
Watch this video. Oh, my God, how many times?
You can debunk it. Anyone can debunk anything. And the thing is, whatever you believe, so if you're very plant-motivated or you're very carnivore, and you're like, the carnivore it's all carnivore, and you can't tell me it's not the healthiest diet because I fixed all my issues, right? 100%. I can't argue with that.
What am I supposed to say? No, you're not really fixed, even though you feel great and you've got plenty of energy. It's like, but that's so unscientific.
Yeah, that's so unscientific. And that's where people, like I said, it becomes very emotional, because if something works for you and someone is telling you maybe, there's another way, well, who cares if there's another way? If that's working for you, don't worry about it. But there can be another way for somebody else.
Yeah.
So why people get quite aggressive about it.
Oh, if you ever read comments online, it's just downright disgraceful. It's like, this is not an emotive issue. This is a scientific issue. And if you kept it at that, then you're going to be fine. I mean, it's like you just, it's one person, who may get great benefit from this. You can't dismiss that.
Well,
and there are studies on carnivore diet. I just read a few of them. And so, and the whole, there'll be people who say carnivore diet, it increases LDL cholesterol, and that's a bad cholesterol. Okay, to what level?
Yeah.
And the one I found there was 174, and that's in the healthy range.
Yes.
For longevity.
And is it bad? And what was the carnivore diet that they were on? And what underlying issues do they have? And what is their genetic propensity? And what is their microbiome? And you can't just say, well, that's the diet and that's it. You have to look beyond all of that. And that's what a good researcher, scientist, clinician, anybody, you have to be open-minded, and there has to be balance, because anything in the extreme, there's problems with it. Everything in the extreme. So plant-based diets are an extreme diet because they're taking out macronutrients. Carnivore diets are an extreme diet.
Yeah.
But can they both be healthy for some people? Yes. Can they both be detrimental for some people? Yes.
Yes.
So that's kind of where we want to premise. But to say that, we were both very surprised that the carnivore diet, in our view, looking at the science and all those sort of underlying issues, not as bad as what I would have expected it to be.
No, I was tempted to try it.
I was actually tempted to try it as well, to be honest.
Just for
a couple of weeks.
I don't know. I love my nuts and stuff too, but I know it seems to sit well for me. Another study here, a British medical journal, published 2016. This is one of the first ones that I came across, one of the earlier ones. And basically, and I'll read the conclusion, so we'll go from there. High LDL cholesterol, which is allegedly the bad cholesterol, is inversely, in other words, oppositely, associated with mortality. So if you've got in people over 60. So high LDL is inversely associated with LDL. And basically, since elderly people with high LDL cholesterol live as long or longer than those with low LDL cholesterol, our analysis, blah, 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 blah. So it's funny because, LDL was going to kill you, in the science said, and that's because it was funded by drug companies, the research.
Exactly.
So, I mean...
That's right.
And so the science was corrupted. Not corrupted, it was just like, well, we're going to look at this.
Yeah.
And look, if I was selling a drug that lowered LDL cholesterol, like a statin drug, I would, kind of just do studies and find the ones that supported my product.
You look at, even if you look up anything online, someone's, I'm going to try this new supplement, so I'm going to look it up online, Dr. Google, whatever. And they're going to, the negative ones are going to, I'm not going to read that. I'll just read all the positive things about, okay, so I feel good about it now. And it all comes down to, you have to feel good about what you're doing. So if someone's sitting there saying, it's wrong, then you're going to get really annoyed about that. So that's why we have to say everybody is different and everybody reacts differently to everything.
Yeah.
So what works for you is amazing. If it works for you, awesome, but don't down somebody who's doing something else that's working for them and say, well, that's wrong because mine's working over here perfectly and I've cured these conditions.
Yeah.
But someone else over there may have cured their conditions by doing the opposite that what you're doing. So
and they'll say, oh, you're cured, but you'll die in 10 years of a heart attack. It's like, geez, like that's how can you predict the future of someone?
Yeah.
We know that the standard Australian and the American diets kills you of heart disease.
Yeah.
That's what we know.
Yes, exactly.
Carnivore diets, when we see them in Inuits and those sort of people where they have largely carnivore, they have less heart disease.
Yeah.
Now, does that mean that that's the thing? We know that if you eat more meat, you live longer.
Yeah.
These are the association of things. It doesn't prove definite things, but it shows that, look, it's not as simple as you eat meat and die.
That's right. It's really not.
Really remarkable. I mean, what would you? Okay, what's your take-home message, Nick?
Well, kind of that. I mean, everybody is different, and I do believe the microbiome plays an extremely important role in how we react to different foods. And so, as I've said all along, it's not that unless it's a refined food, it's a sugar, it's horrible food. Then the food itself is not the problem. It's the microbiome. It's what you're feeding, that sort of thing. So there is. So it's not the diet that's the be-all and end-all that's fixed everything. It's the fact that you've changed the microbiome by not feeding things. So the carnivore diet, as you said, I'm not against it now, to be honest. So, and if it works for somebody, then fine. And even the fibre issue, because for me it was going to be, okay, yes, maybe we've found some positives, but the fibre issue, that's a factor. And then the more we looked into the fibre issue, we can't find anything that says, okay, from the dawn of time, we need fibre in our diet to survive. Yeah. Yes, fibre has some really amazing benefits to our health, but without the fibres or with very reduced fibres, people are still thriving.
Well,
so
their bowels improve on the studies.
Yeah. So therefore, I can't sit and say the carnivore diet is terrible. I can't say that. And as I said, I even to the point where I would even consider even trying it. I don't think I will, but I still think just a nice balanced animal proteins, some plant. I do think that I'm going to look more into this now. I've opened up the can of worms there. But perhaps we're eating too many plant-based foods. I know I can't believe I'm actually saying that because I do tout a lot of plant-based foods. But perhaps we're not preparing them correctly. We need to break down those the different compounds and chemicals and things like that in them. But the fact of the matter is, in clinic, the majority of the factors that I see that are causing symptoms, not causing the problems, but driving the symptoms are plant-based foods. And that comes back to the gut. They're just what you're feeding, what you have in there. So, again, not the plant-based foods, but this is very controversial. I don't know. This is just a question. Do we need as many plant-based foods as we're being told? I don't know. I don't know.
It's like from my brain's going back to the 90s when we were told to eat, loads of fruits and vegetables and whole grains and it's hard to get around that. But I've just quoted studies which contradict my old thinking. Which is good. Yeah. I mean, I like that. And I think, you've got to remember, for people listening at home, playing along at home, there are things called essential amino acids. There's about 8 or 9 of them, depending which book you read. Yeah. There are essential fatty acids, alpha-linoleic acid and gamma-linolenic acid, but there's no such thing as an essential carbohydrate.
That's right. There's not.
Your body can make sugar.
That's right, yeah.
And people go, your brain will die without sugar. It's like, no. Well, firstly, your sugar never goes to zero.
That's right.
Because it makes it. Secondly, your brain can live off ketones.
Yes.
We know that. In fact, 100 years ago, they were giving ketogenic diets for people with brain disease. Yeah. We know that ketones can help your bowels too, so you don't need a cup. It's like, this is sort of making sense now. This is how the body adapts. And you say, but your body... first fuel is sugar. It's like, of course the first fuel, because it can't store sugar efficiently. It's going to burn it first.
And that's the problem, because people are having too many sugars and their bodies not even have to, convert. I mean, you eat protein, it'll convert it to sugar, gluconeogenesis. Yeah. Fats convert into ketones. So, but and that's, I think the bigger problem is the carbohydrates in society. So people are taking all these in and they're taking in so much sugar that the body now doesn't know what to do with it. So it's storing it, fatty liver and obesity and things like that. But the body is a very smart machine. We know an ounce of what really goes on in the body, and it knows what to do. And for, thousands of years, people were living on meats and fats and things. And then agriculture came in, and then it was all about the grains. And, you've got to remember back, 20 years ago, it was all the low fat. It was low fat, low fat.
Oh, yeah.
Low fat's going to kill you.
The science was settled, Nick.
The science was settled. That's what it is. So, and so we have to, as technology and testing and science sort of evolves, we have to move with that and look at what the new science says and embrace everything and look at everything and not just poo-hoo something just because it doesn't fit with what we think is the way things should be. So,
can I get on my soapbox a little bit? One bugbear that when I was scrolling through, I was scrolling through Instagram feeds and all this sort of stuff. And they have this weird thing that they talk about consensus. They talk about most doctors recommend, most nutrition, most naturopaths. Remember, science is not a democracy.
Yeah.
Jeez,
anyway, we've pretty much gone on a huge rant.
We have gone on a big rant.
We forgot about the carnivore diet.
Yeah, screw that. No. But look, Nick, it's been great, and I can't wait for the emails to come in about this one.
There'll be a lot. So, yeah, hey, whatever, bring it on. We're not saying anyone's right or wrong. We're just putting it out there. But as summary, carnivore diet, not as bad as I actually thought it was.
No, it's interesting.
I don't know.
It's interesting. All right, well, we'll see you next week, and we'll talk about something hopefully less controversial.
Hopefully.
All right, we'll see you next week.
See ya.
Bye. Nick.
Steve.
Let's do Ask a Naturopath.
Yes.
You're a naturopath. The cold brown naturopathy, you can be Googled, you can be seen consultations, so you're a naturopath.
And you're a naturopath.
Oh, shit, I
You probably can be Googled, but you don't really see patients.
I don't see clients anymore. I haven't for years because I'm so old. Okay, I'm going to ask you the first question. You asked me the second one. This is from Anonymous, so there you go.
Yeah.
I don't even know if it is a male or a female, but let's just read away and see what it says. I haven't read this. I'm really prepared for this.
Yeah,
Hi, I recently consulted a nutritionist who recommended I try a detox diet to improve my energy levels and overall health. The diet involves cutting out processed foods, sugar, caffeine, alcohol, and focusing on raw vegetables, smoothies, and specific supplements. I've been following it for about 3 weeks now, but instead of feeling better, I'm experience fatigue, headaches, and some digestive discomfort. I'm starting to wonder if this is normal or the diet might not be right for me. Could you share your thoughts on detox diets? Are they generally beneficial, or could they potentially do more harm than good? I also love to know if there is a safer, more sustainable ways to support my body's natural detoxification processes. Thank you. There you go. Still don't know if it's a guy or a girl. That's right.
This person. Yes. Okay. So I'll tell you some little secret about the body, Steve.
Secret?
Yeah. It's got its own detox mechanisms.
No.
I know.
Well, you think we're made of livers and lungs and kidneys and skins and...
Yeah, all that. Yeah, we are. And that we will detoxify every day.
Every single day.
So these detox diets, and this one sounds like a pretty horrendous one, I must say. Yeah. So this one's got raw vegetables, what did it say, juices, raw vegetable smoothies and supplements. So for a start there, and this is the problem with a lot of detox diets, like the juice diet is still around.
Is it still around?
Diet. I'm like, oh my God.
So why taking fibre out of fruit and vegetables? Why does that help you detox?
Yeah, taking fibre out of fruit and vegetables, so you're making it a sugar, like very much a fast-acting sugar.
Right.
You're also taking out proteins.
Yes.
And there's something about proteins that's pretty cool in that they have amino acids in them that actually are needed for our phase 1, phase 2 detoxification pathways of our liver. So if you're taking out, your amino acids, your phase 2 is going to not really work very well. So therefore, you're not going to detoxify these toxins that you're trying to release. Yeah. Anyway, raw vegetables can be really hard on people's stomachs.
Yeah. I don't know.
Smoothies can be high in sugar. Supplements, depends on the supplements. A lot of them are, rubbish, the detox supplements and things. Yeah. So you would be better to eliminate definitely processed foods and sugar and caffeine and alcohol. I would caffeine, maybe you can have one a day, not too bad. Get rid of all that other stuff. Just whole foods diet, just lean protein, so you get those amino acids in for that phase 2 detox. And then your nutrients in there, you're getting rid of all the rubbish, and then make sure your detox pathways are nice and open. So have lots of bitter foods for the liver, have lots of liquids and things for kidney flush. So get into infrared saunas and detoxify, exercise and sweat, things like that. So you'd be much better off doing that. And if you're having issues and that's the reason you're doing a detox, address the issue rather than just doing some weird detox.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I couldn't agree more. Yeah, you're detoxing all day. Just support it. Don't go on any funny fad diets. This reminds me of the 90s.
Yeah, exactly.
Remember the 90s of the juicing and the water fasting?
And all the different fasts and the
water fasting.
salads and the cabbage diet and
I did a water fast once. I think I lasted 8 hours. I was
just, I feel
anyway.
Swimming.
That's good, Nick. That's a good one.
All
right, would you want to ask me one?
Yeah, this one's also from Anonymous.
Okay, hello,
Anonymous today. Hi guys, I've recently noticed some vertical black lines appearing under a few of my fingernails. They're thin but quite dark, and I'm not sure what's causing them. I've tried researching online, but the information is either too vague or overly alarming. I haven't had any recent injuries to my nails, and I'm in generally good health.
Okay.
Could you shed some light on what might be causing these lines? Are they something to be concerned about, or could they be related to diet, stress, or something else? I really appreciate your insight and any advice on whether I should see someone about this. Thanks so much.
Well, it's interesting because the first thing they said was they're in generally good health. So I always look at the big picture symptoms before we go any further. Like if somebody says they're sick, like they're fatigued or whatever it is, they're sick. Yeah. Now, if they've got signs, I still notice them, but secondary to the symptom picture.
Yes.
So they've got lines in their fingernails. That can be caused by a few things. The lacks of minerals like zincs and those sorts of things are very important. So we used to look at those and at those lines, and it could be zinc. Yeah. And I don't know if this person is eating enough zinc. It's a lot of Australians are deficient in zinc because they don't eat lots of nuts and seeds and those sort of things, which are high in zinc, and meats. Yeah. They tend to eat other things. So that could be a cause of it. What I think could be useful to do if you're really worried about this is doing one of those beautiful organic acid tests.
Yes, I love it.
To look at the metabolism. I know you love them too.
I love them.
What would you add to this, Nick, with regards to just lines and nails?
So if they're black lines, I would probably get them checked out because it could be a nail melanoma.
Yep. Oh, yeah. Oh, geez, I should have mentioned that. They're deadly.
They are deadly. So alarmist, yes. But I would, even though you're saying, some of them are overly alarming, they are. So I would check it out because there is a thing called nail melanoma. Yeah. Splinter hemorrhages, which can just be from injury, which they said they haven't, or psoriasis, psoriatic arthritis, but you'd probably have other symptoms there.
Pitted nails,
psoriatic arthritis.
You can get club nails too. That's heart disease.
Yeah, that is a heart disease. I actually dated someone once who had club nails. And I'm
what?
I dated someone once who had club nails.
Oh, and that's awkward, isn't it? They also were taking
growth hormone and things. I think that might have been more of the issue. But if you have club nails, go get, because that can be heart disease, heart issues. Signs of endocarditis.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which is a heart valve infection.
Endocarditis. I would never. Medications,
Yeah. So, it's worth getting checked out if they're black lines because sometimes they can be a bit sinister.
I forgot all about the melanoma thing. Yeah. Sorry, someone died. That's sorry,
but also zinc
anonymous.
And things like definitely any nail changes can be zinc related as well. But yeah, there you go.
And you'd be asymptomatic too as melanoma.
You would, yeah.
Wow.
So, maybe check it out.
Scary, yeah. Go on, Nick. Yeah. Oh, well, thanks for that. We'll see everyone next week. And submit your questions in.
Yeah, anything you like, whatever you want to talk about.
Good.
Weather, anything.
Yeah, weather.
We'll talk about that. Space.
Space.
Oh, we've been taken off.